Let's go. Let's go. Turn to your neighbor and say, it's summertime. Let's go. Hey, I want to get right into it. My message is titled Eyes on the Prize. Turn to your neighbor and say, Eyes on the Prize. All right, you heard that phrase before. I want to dive into something. And I think a couple of years ago, I was watching Urbandale basketball play. I think it was districts. It was a super important game. I'm sitting there in the stands, and it's the game is back and forth. The whole game, back and forth, back and forth. It goes into overtime. And kind of toward the end of regulation, it was almost like Urbandale survived into overtime, if you know what I mean. You ever seen a sports team that's just trying to survive? The Vikings all the time. Any Minnesota sports team all the time. It's a burden. It's a burden we bury or carry. I don't know. Anyways, they get into overtime, and Urbandale's, I don't even remember who they're playing. And I kid you not, Urbandale got the ball for overtime, and they crossed the half-court line, and the coach said, hold on, stay over there. I'm not playing you. This is like district, okay? It was multiple years ago. The guy crossed half-court, and legally, as the rules state, he could stand there for as long as he wants. There's no shot clock, no nothing. And the coach said, nope, let him stand there. The other coach said, we're not going to guard him. Let him be. And they held the ball for 5 minutes straight. I'm not kidding you. It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. That guy stood in the corner, live play, the clock's counting down. We're in overtime. This is a huge game. And the guy's just standing there holding the ball. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. You could tell Urbandale was just trying to survive. They wanted the last shot because they were not, it didn't seem like they were playing to win. They were just trying not to lose. You know what I'm talking about? Now, the irony of this is they were so afraid of turning the ball over, so afraid of losing, so afraid of making a mistake that there's like 15 seconds left, and the coach says, all right, go, make a move. And they make a move, and they turn the ball over, and the other team gets a fast break layup on the buzzer, wins the game. One shot in overtime. It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Everyone in this, like, the Urbandale side was like jaw on the floor. I was like, what did I just witness? How many of you know there's a difference between playing to win versus playing just not to lose? You know what I'm talking about? Have you ever seen a sports team like that, or somebody's doing some competition and they're out there just surviving? They're just trying to survive, okay? They're not thriving. They're not confident. You know what I'm talking about, Kelly? You know, I'm sure you do. Yes. I'm sure I know exactly what that means. My man, just trying not to lose, playing scared versus playing confident, just trying to avoid mistakes. Escape losing versus playing with everything on the line, chasing after something with confidence, fighting until the end, focusing on the end. There's a big difference in playing to win versus playing not to lose. This message is inspired by my guy, Nacho Libre, because when I think of this, I think of him saying, I want to win. You know what I'm talking about? Turn to your neighbor and say, I want to win. I want to win. Sick and tired of losing. Okay? I want to win. There's a difference. The Bible talks about this for us, that this applies to our lives. There's a difference in how we live our life. And I want to break that down. So we're in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 24 through 27. That's what I'm talking about. It's been 1 week and you forgot. But you guys did it on Sunday. At least that's what I heard. So we're in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 24 through 27. Let's go. It says, don't you realize that in a race everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize? So just survive. Just tiptoe around. Try not to fall down. Try not to make any mistakes. Just survive until the end. No, it says play to win. Play to win. Run to win. All athletes are disciplined in their training. They do it to win a prize that will fade away, but we run our race for an eternal prize. So I run with purpose in every step. This Urbandale basketball team was not running with this. They were just scared and afraid and avoiding and escaping. They were not playing like this. So I run with purpose in every step. I'm not just shadow boxing. That means I'm not just like on the sidelines kind of just going through the motions. Like I'm in the ring. I'm in the game. I'm running the race. I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching to others, I myself might be disqualified. We are all running a race, and you might say, wow, this is why life is so hard, because I hate running. That's me. I hate running with the passion. But we are all in this race called life. We're running this race, whether you like it or not. And you get to decide how you run. Not if you run, we're on the journey, but you get to decide how you will choose to run. Am I going to run to win, like Paul says, or am I just trying to avoid messing up, or just trying to avoid losing, or just, I just want to stay away from pain? There's a difference. Turn to your neighbor and say, there's a difference. I believe that many of us in our race, our fight against sin, our relationship with God, our trying to live for Him in this world, we mainly focus on just avoiding sin, escaping sin, sin management. I'm trying not to sin as much today as I did yesterday. I'm running and playing just not to lose, instead of, like Paul says, running to win. I'm so afraid of messing up. I'm so afraid of that my eyes are fixed on not sinning. My eyes are fixed on not tripping up. My eyes are fixed on, I shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that. And it keeps us playing not to lose. I think we have a church culture that preaches this, as Dallas Willard says, this gospel of sin management. That once you become a Christian, then life is just about managing sin. It's just like, as long as you don't sin as much today as you did yesterday and you love Jesus, that's it. And we just wait till heaven. Hopefully it's good for you. Hopefully you don't get beat up too much. Hopefully you don't fall too much. And that sounds like such a pathetic life. I don't know about anyone else. That's not the life that I feel like in the Bible I read about Jesus saying, I give you abundant life. He talks to me I'm more than a conqueror in Him. He says, I have victory in His name, and where the Spirit is, there's freedom, and all these other amazing things about life with Jesus, and yet I'm living scared, broken, burdened, because all I can focus on is just not tripping up. And I fell again, or just controlling and escaping and avoiding. And all my focus and energy is not actually what I'm running to, but rather what I'm running from. And I would say no wonder we're exhausted. No wonder we're hopeless. No wonder we're powerless. Because that's not the way that Christ calls us to live. And if I live my life with this, just managing sin, just trying not to sin as much, avoiding sin, if that's my only aim as a Christian, it turns me into one of two things. One of two things. It either turns me into a Pharisee or a failure. What do I mean by that? Pharisees, they were a Jewish group of, they were as much religious leaders as they were political leaders, and they were a group that was dedicated to strictly enforcing and following the law of the Old Testament, 600 plus laws. And the word Pharisee in Hebrew literally means separated, but also specifier. They were perfect. Who they were was they were able to point out and specify the areas that people would mess up and mistake and avoid this and don't do this. They were brilliant at it. They were the best at it. They were the best at just avoiding sin and avoiding breaking the law. They were professionals. In their eyes, they did everything right. Culturally, they did everything right. They were doers of these things, but you know what? They weren't anything like Jesus. And in fact, Jesus, in His savage way, called them whitewashed tombs. Brood of vipers. They were dead on the inside. Because their whole life, their whole main focus and goal was just sinning less and avoiding sin. And everybody saw them as holy because of this, but really they were empty. They were just empty. And that's how we look as Christians. If my life is focused on just avoiding sin and pointing out, oh, these are the laws, I need to stay away, and that's my only focus, and that's where my eyes are fixed, and that's where my energy's at. It may seem like holiness when you come in on a Wednesday, and other people may look at you as holy, but I promise you, you're empty. You're empty. And that's not a life I want to live, nor were you supposed to live. And really, it just made them professional hiders, concealers, because we know nobody's perfect. And so their version of holiness and perfection was actually just them being really good at covering up. Really good, just like the whitewashed. It's beautiful, but it's a tomb. And me living a life just trying to avoid sin makes me really good at hiding sin or convincing myself I'm good enough. The opposite makes me a failure. If I focus solely on avoiding sin, guess what? You're not perfect. You never will be. Only Jesus could accomplish that. Only God himself could accomplish that. And so for you in your life, if your only aim is to not mess up, guess what? You're going to mess up. You're going to trip up. You're going to fall. You're going to make a mistake. And then your only focus, if your only focus is trying to be perfect, then your only focus is how much you're a failure, how much you fall short, how much shame and guilt and all these other negative emotions. And you just beat yourself up. I can't stop that. I can't stop desiring that. I recognize there's no way. And that turns into me accepting that I just don't, my actions are not failures, but I'm a failure. And that there's no way I could be sin-free enough to earn God's love for me. I become hopeless and powerless, like I said, full of shame and condemnation. And I believe, like in your notes, most people are living this way. You're either a Pharisee, and you're just really good at covering it up, or you're on the failure side of it, and you're just walking around hopeless, full of shame, and condemned. Neither of these lives or lifestyles is the way that we are supposed to be living as followers and sons and daughters of the Most High God. That's not how we are called or supposed to live. The Bible, like I said, talks about full life. Where is that? Let me illustrate this. I have some drinks up here. I picked some awesome ones. How many like Starbucks? Yeah. Who said blah? You're awesome. I agree with you. 100%. Burnt dirt. All of it. Burnt dirt. Prime? Yeah, you would. A classic Mountain Dew. Oh, give me that Mountain Dew. Have you guys tried the Juneberry Summer Edition, baby? Yeah, Gabe, come on, fan it down, baby. This is heat. This is straight gas. I picked an Alani. I feel like I've seen a lot of you guys drink the Alanis. Yeah, especially you, Noah. Chill, bro. This is juicy peach. Yuck. Ugh. Anyways. So in my life, I found out that sugar hurts my stomach. It just does. Like, sugar hurts my stomach, and the amount of sugar in these drinks is ridiculous. Actually, I don't think there's sugar in these two. But anyways, I decided in my life, man, I'm going to stay away from sugar as much as I can. And you might be like, what? Pastor Luke, I always see you with some kind of energy drink. It never has sugar in it. I'm not saying it's healthy for me, Brandon, but it ain't got no sugar, so it don't hurt my stomach. And so a while ago, I said, I'm not going to drink these things because, man, it just hurts my stomach, and it's horrible for me in multiple ways. Not just my stomach, but it's horrible for my teeth. It's horrible for my fatigue and, like, my energy. It's just not good for me. So I'm gonna like, stop. And I stopped, and all I did was just cut out bad drinks. I just stopped intaking bad things. And you know what? I felt a little bit better, but then I felt real worse. Like, it was like horrible. Like, Not just headaches, but like my fatigue, my energy was down. Like I was like, man, shouldn't I be like feeling better because I'm not consuming so much sugar? I was feeling worse. Because here's my problem. I cut out all of these drinks. I cut out all these negative things, but I didn't start drinking more water. I just didn't. Like I cut out, like there's some water in here, I think. So I cut it out, but I didn't start filling up on the stuff that I needed, which is water. And so I'm thinking just cutting these things out should like change my life. Didn't. It didn't. You know what changed my life is I committed to start drinking as much water as I should be and above and beyond, that I'm pounding water all the time. You see where I'm going with this? And I find it significant that this is life water. That in my fight against feeling better and living as I'm supposed to live wasn't as much of cutting something out, but of filling up with something. It's not as much of what you're running from, but who you're running to. In your spiritual life, you can cut out and focus on cutting out and stop sinning and of managing sin and sinning less. But if that is all you do, you're still empty. You're still dehydrated. You're still not full. The goal is not to be empty. The goal is to be full, just full on the right thing. And so for me, I needed the life water. And for me in my spiritual life, I needed not just to run from something, but I'm running to someone. And my goal first and foremost had to be drinking more water, filling up on the living water who is Jesus. That is my goal first and foremost, is to be so full on water that you know what? I don't really want anything else, nor do I have room for it. Yes, I still crave every once in a while, but you know what happens when I try to drink a Mountain Dew now? I can only drink a couple sips. It doesn't even taste good anymore. It's like maybe one sip does, but anything after that, I don't like it anymore. Why? Because I have focused not on just avoiding something, but of filling up on something. And in your walk with Jesus, in your walk, if you want true abundant life, you need to fill up. Your focus is to fill up, not empty out. Am I saying that you shouldn't run from sin? Am I saying that you shouldn't avoid these things or cut bad things? You should, absolutely. But if that is your only goal, I promise you, you'll turn into a Pharisee or a failure. Unless your first and main goal is to run to Jesus to be filled. Because guess what? The more you fill up on Him, the more you fall in love with Him, the more you become like Him, the more you get His eyes, His ears, His heart, His taste, the more you get of Him, and the more you become like Him. Romans 12:9 says, hate what is wrong, hold tightly to what is good. So I'm not saying you shouldn't hate what is wrong. That's what we should do. But first and foremost is I cling to what is good. And the more that I cling, the more I hate. You see the connection there? The more that I get closer to Jesus, the more I hate what is away from Jesus. And the more I fill up on Him is the more life that I actually get, and the less I want something that's counterfeit. The more you fall in love with Jesus, the more you will hate sin, I promise you. John Piper says, I know no other way to overcome sin than to find a superior satisfaction in Jesus. If you want to overcome sin, if you want to overcome these struggles in your life, these doubts, these fears, these addictions, if you are only focusing on just cutting more of these bad things out, you'll lose every time because you are not replacing and filling up on what is going to give you true life. I promise you. And I've had freedom in my life from things that I never thought I would get freedom from. Why? Because I shifted my focus on saying, God, I'm going to run after you and only fill up on you. That is my first and foremost goal. And you know what started happening? I started getting His heart. He started transforming me. Because just avoiding something doesn't transform me, but filling up with the right thing does. Hebrews 12, 1-4, you can play that. that background, Kaylee, for me, because I'm about to wrap up. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. See what I'm saying? I'm not saying you shouldn't have a goal, a game plan to get rid of sin in your life. That's biblical. But look what it says. Let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. We do this, including throw off the weight, throw off the sin that entangles. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting him, he endured the cross, disregarding its shame. Now he is seated in the place of honor beside God's throne. Think of all the hostility he endured from sinful people. Then you won't become weary and give up. After all, you have not yet given your lives in your struggle against sin. My goal, my focus, shouldn't be what I'm running from, but who we are running to. Who you're running to. The goal in life. Here's the deal. There's another alternative when you fix your eyes on Jesus. You know, in the Bible, what that's called? It's called being a disciple. The word disciple literally means learner and follower. Their main goal was to be close to Jesus, to follow him, to learn from him, to become like him, to do what he did. They walked with him. It was a relationship, and it was their main focus and their main goal was to be with Jesus. More of him, more like him, and more from him. And they focused everything on him, and it changed them. Yes, they had bumps. Yes, they weren't perfect, but guess what? They still ran and focused on Jesus, and it transformed them. They knew the goal was not just to escape sin, but to encounter Jesus. To run to Jesus, not just run from something. And true transformation in your life, I promise you, will come if you commit to fixing your eyes on Jesus and running towards him first and foremost, above all things, filling up on him. Putting more energy on running to him, spending time with him, learning from him, listening to him, obeying him, than spending more time just avoiding things. I promise you, you will see true freedom. There's no true fullness or freedom in your life if you just try to avoid sin or sinning less. That's not how we're transformed, and that's not what real holiness is. I love this quote by my friend Alan Pastian. Says, holiness is embracing who you are with God rather than just resisting who you are without God. Yes, the old is gone. I resist that life. I crucify it. But my main goal now is embracing my new life. Focusing on him. Once again, I'm not saying that it just doesn't matter if you sin. Absolutely it does. We know sin separates us from God. Sin is painful. It kills our relationship. We talked about this multiple weeks ago, that sin is the poison that we drink that kills us. Yes, I understand that. But once again, I promise you, if you focus on filling up, you'll be transformed. Lastly, I just have these two roses here. Put them to the front. I have these two roses here. If I asked you, can you see these? If I asked you, rose A, rose B, if I asked you which one of these roses is dead, which one would you point at? This one? This one. Rose B, okay. You point at it because it looks dead. It smells dead. It is dead. Right. You're correct, but you're also incorrect. You know why? Because if I asked you again, which one of these roses is dead? What'd you say, Matt? Both of them are dead. Why? They're not connected to anything. There's no source. There's no filling up. Rose A might be able to look at Rose B and say, well, at least I don't look like that. At least I don't smell. I mean, at least I still have nice looking petals. I got, crazy thorns still. At least I look like this. But that rose is still dead. They're both dead. If you are not connected to your source of life, abundant life, as Jesus would say, if you're not running and focusing after him, you're dead. No matter how much sin you try to avoid, you're dead. You're dead. We need to focus first and foremost on who you are running to, not just what you're running from. And I promise, if you apply this to your life in any area, you will see transformation. I promise. I promise. Would you stand all across the room? See, some of us in the place, you look like Rose. You look like Rose. Like life looks pretty good on the outside. People that would look at you, especially non-church people, would go, wow, they got it together. They got it together. And we focus all of our effort on just looking good, avoiding sin, running from things. But here's the deal. We're dying on the inside. We're dying because we're still burdened. We're still dying. We're not connected to anything. We're paying for it. Struggling, weighted down. And I think this rose has more weight on it than this one, because this one's trying to keep up a look. It's a Pharisee. It looks alive. It's doing great at trying to avoid sin more and more and holiness, but it's dead. Some of us in the place, you're straight up more Rose B. You would say, man, I've never had a relationship with the Lord, or I've walked away from it. I'm not connected to anything. I recognize it. I'm not living right. I don't even look good or look clean. Guess what? Both of these roses, Jesus, your source of life, who literally died on a cross for us, is in the room. His Spirit is in the room. And his arms are open wide saying, I have what you're searching for. I have abundant life. Look at what Jesus says. In John, actually we'll do 1 John first. This is not Jesus. 1 John 5 says, and this is what God testified. He has given us eternal life, and this life is in his Son. Whoever has the Son has life. Whoever does not have God's Son does not have life. If you are not fully connected, filling up, you do not have life. Jesus then says in John 10:10, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come that they may have life and have it to the full, have it abundantly, have it above and beyond what they could think or imagine. That's the life that Jesus has. Not an easy life. It's not a perfect life, but it's a life that is fully satisfied, not searching for all these other things. Can you bow your heads? Like I said, Jesus gave everything to be in relationship with you. Everything. Yes, he died so that you could have forgiveness, but his end goal was not forgiveness. His end goal wasn't even freedom. His end goal was relationship with you. That's why he moved heaven and earth. That's why he stepped off of a perfect, sinless throne and came down into our mess. And we didn't deserve it. We still don't. But God loved us that much that he said, I want to have a relationship with them, and through that relationship, they could have life. Not just on this earth, but for eternity after we die or after Jesus comes back to get us. I just want you to respond with every head bowed and eyes closed. I'll do this first. If you would say you're Rose B, you're the rose that just looks dead. You'd say, man, I've never accepted Jesus. In my heart, I've never given my life to him. I've never been connected. I've never tried. And I'm dead. You know what? I'm not even trying to fake it. I've never done this before, and I want a relationship with him. I want that forgiveness, and I want that freedom, but I want that relationship. If that's you, I'm going to just pray with you. Would you be so bold to raise your hand and look at me? If that's you, you'd say, I want that. Good job, buddy. See you. Anyone else? Would you just boldly raise your hand? Absolutely. I see you back there. Anybody else? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I see the hand. You can put your hands down. Jesus, thank you for new life, abundant life, where Satan has came to steal, kill, and destroy in their lives, and they've looked dead, felt dead, and are dead. I thank you that you give them life. Everyone else in the room, you can look at me. I hope that you're living like a disciple. You focus on filling up, and that's your goal. But I would say majority of us, we just don't, that's not like our first thought. It's like, let's stay away from sin as much as possible. So I would say a majority of us, maybe more like Rose, just try to make sure we look good enough and avoid enough stuff, and that should be good. But you're feeling just dead. You're feeling tired, weighted. You've been battling the same thing for years, months, weeks, whatever it may be. I want to give you a moment to get connected to the source. I'm not going to pray for you. I'll pray over you. But after I pray, I just want you to find a spot in the room and start going after Jesus. What do I mean by that? Tonight, I mean just talking to him, asking for his life, giving your life to him, calling out to him, asking for help, worshiping him. You need to talk to him. It's a relationship. After tonight, it looks like actually getting in your Bible, actually praying longer than 30 seconds, actually getting in deep community where people are able to challenge you, actually listening to his voice, actually stepping out in faith and obedience. Yes, these are hard things. I get that, but that's what fills us up. And at first, it's not going to taste as good, but I promise you it'll satisfy deeper than you can ever imagine. So I'm going to pray, and you just have a couple minutes, okay? And I want you to find a spot in the room, no distraction. If you just raised your hand for the first time and said, I want a relationship with Jesus, this is your opportunity. You get to talk with him, and you talk with him just as a friend. So Jesus, I thank you that you save us, you set us free, but God, ultimately, you give us life to the fullest. I pray that we would turn our focus, we would fix, God, because as we have a broken gaze, we would fix that gaze on you. God, not just on the thing we're running from, but focus on you, God, in everything that we would do, everything that we do. Thank you, Lord, that you are so desperately in love with us and want a relationship with us. I pray that you would have a moment with your kids tonight. In your mighty name.